Okay, Nick and Andy, let's now focus on who are the Premier League title favourites. We have three big boys right at the top of the table. Liverpool, Man City, Arsenal, just 2 points separates them. This is all set up for a wonderful finish to the season, Nick Mendola. In your opinion, let's go for it straight away. Who are the favourites to win the Premier League title as it stands?
Well, coming off an NFL season where we just learned a great deal, Andy, about what you don't tell a team they're the underdogs. If you say it's anyone other than Man City, I think you're a bit crazy. That's not to say Liverpool can't be better or aren't better, or Arsenal can't be better or aren't better, but I think I'll keep it short and sweet. Kevin De Bruyne, Rodri, Erling Haaland, Ruben Diaz, Pep Guardiola, Ederson, been there, done that, right up the middle. I just think whether you think they're going to win or not, you have to say they're the favorites, right?
You have to, but I will say, looking at the schedules remaining for these teams, Man City do have the toughest schedule, it looks like, on paper. So, again, we know the juggernaut they are. We know this time of the season, right? As soon as a few daffodils start popping up here in England, you know Man City are going to go on a tear in the spring into the end of the season. So, yeah, I'll just leave that there. But, Andy, I'm intrigued. Do you think it's as cut and dry as Nick said, that Man City are the favourites and this is their, fourth title in a row they're going to win?
Yep, I sure do.
All right, well, that's the end of the segment. No, I'm joking.
Yeah, we'll go again, but favorites, not it's going to happen. Favorites.
And I think for me, it comes down to the fact that they are where they are right now, and we've seen nowhere near the best of Manchester City in 2023-24 season, right? Because they've had the injury to De Bruyne at 20 minutes into the season. They had a couple of months without Haaland. Then they still managed to keep themselves right there. Obviously, Pep is going to figure little things out to get them results and keep them in the title race. And now Arsenal and Liverpool have done them a couple of favors in recent weeks and dropped some points and made it a little bit more straightforward, I think, for Manchester City. I thought they were going to have to maybe fight to the last week or two of the season. I'm looking at it now, and I take the point on board that they've got a difficult run in. I don't think it matters. I think they could play Liverpool, Arsenal, Liverpool, Arsenal, Liverpool, Arsenal for the rest of the season, and I think they would come out the champions at the end of the campaign. I think they are. We know they're that good. We saw it last year, and they haven't gotten demonstrably worse from last season to this season. It's about the end of the season for Manchester City every single season. They do this most years. They're okay, yeah. They've got some talent. We know what they're going to be at the end of the season. And then come the end of the season, Pep figures out the formula and they cruise at the end.
Yeah. It's hard to disagree with anything you two guys have said there because Man City, Nick said it, bet against them at your peril. But Arsenal, I'm looking at their remaining schedule. I've been at a lot of Arsenal games recently over here in England and just being around the tunnel area, around the players after the game, and it seems very, very different to sort of this time last season or even later last season when obviously they were in the title race, they were leading, had a big lead, and it felt a lot more nervous then, and the players almost just thinking, well, whatever happens is a bonus. Now there's more of a determination saying, all right, we learned from last season, we are comfortable in the situation we're in, and it feels like there's more consistency expected from Arsenal down the stretch here. So I expect them to get a lot closer. I'm not saying they're favourites, but I would say that if injuries are kind to them, I would put them right up there with Manchester City. And that's another focus. If we're saying City have been okay so far, but without De Bruyne and Haaland, there was a huge drop-off in December in particular when they did cough up a lot of points. And I think Jurgen Klopp said it recently, right? Like all of us at the top, we have to get lucky with injuries and hope for the best. And that's kind of what's going to decide this, right, Andy?
Yeah, Joe, let me ask you a question on that point on Arsenal there. Obviously, the progression and the experience for a young team, having been through a title race and just understanding what that is like, obviously is going to help them from last season to this. But, and we've talked about this, I think, every week, how much of that is also just the introduction of Declan Rice into that team and maybe the confidence that his presence in that position that was clearly an issue last season and probably, I think you could say, maybe cost them the title in certain ways, having a player of that caliber in that spot now, not just performing well, but leading the team too.
Yeah, it's huge. I'm a huge Declan Rice fan. I think I sent out a tweet when Arsenal signed him in the summer saying he's a generational talent. Whoever out of Man City or Arsenal signed him, that was defensive solidity for several seasons for them locked up. And he's been even better than I expected at Arsenal. He's settled in perfectly. And he's one of these players, almost like a Roy Keane player in his prime, where, he's not going to score 20, 25 goals a season from midfield, but he will do all the things you need as a team to win a game, make all the players around him better, the intangibles, like you said, Andy, the leadership. And watching him at West Ham back there last weekend, it was a masterclass. The assists, the quality on the ball, the goal that he scored. And yeah, he's, as an England fan, I'm so excited heading into the Euros this summer that he's in this kind of form. But focusing on the Premier League, Nick, when we're looking at sort of Man City game in hand against Brentford, Kevin De Bruyne and Haaland back fit. I mean, we haven't talked about Liverpool a lot yet, but they have another tussle coming up, those two. And I'm intrigued to see Liverpool now with some of the injuries. Can they, kick on again, and the added factor of Jurgen Klopp's final season in charge? How much do we sort of give that weight, and how will that play into the title race down the stretch?
I think it's their X factor, and it might sound like something simple and basic to say, but when you compare it to the other teams' X factors, right? Like when I want to make a case for all three of them, and I can, by the way, I think you can make a strong case for all three, but it is the intangibles, the invisible, that's the thing with Liverpool. I don't think I can point to any player on their team. I'm thinking this now, besides Alisson and maybe Alexander-Arnold, and say, well, yeah, obviously he's a team of the year candidate, right? Like I think when you make the argument for Liverpool,
Salah, right?
Oh yeah, of course. I'm sorry, in the team right now.
Yeah,
I'm thinking of that team as driven by not philosophy, but there's a spirit that you make the case for them with spirit. Whereas with Man City, it's a system and it's superstars. And in Arsenal, like, we can get to that. You mentioned Rice. I throw in Odegaard, Saka. I mean, you're talking about three of the very best. I don't know if I want to throw around generational in an arbitrary manner, but they're right there. So when I make a case for all of them and I go back to Liverpool, they have, going back to my Kansas City Chiefs comparison, the underdog. You're not really an underdog, but you get to play the underdog with your legendary coach potentially going away. I see that there.
Yeah, let's remember this was, and I think still is, and we've kind of lost sight of it just a little bit because of how good, especially Mohamed Salah, was to start the season. This is a transitional season for Liverpool. That was before you throw in the Jurgen Klopp factor and the fact that he's going to be moving on. I mean, how much do we talk about the midfield? It's completely rebuilt in the summer. And the fact that they are even in the title race, I think at this point, is probably a bit of an overachievement on their part. And that's not to say they can't go on and win it and that they can't keep overachieving until the end of the season. But I'm just thinking back to the conversations we had in the offseason. And this wasn't the conversation we were having about where can Liverpool be this season. Like if everything went right, maybe they could be in the title race. It kind of feels like at this point, everything has gone right.
You're talking about overachievement there, Andy. If we look at the XG table for the Premier League, Arsenal should actually be 4 points clear of Man City right now at the moment. But obviously City have that game in hand. And then Liverpool should be in third. But that just tells you how tight it is and how even it is. Even with the XG table, these three teams are clearly the three best teams in the Premier League, very much on their own in a separate class. And the more we've talked about it, the more we can make cases for all three, which is brilliant down the stretch here, because I think we started it with Man City are the clear favourites, but looking at their schedule remaining, as I said, they have Liverpool to play, they have Man United to play, they have Arsenal, they have Aston Villa, they have Tottenham. Tricky trips to they got Wolves to play, and they have to go away to Palace, Brighton. These aren't easy games that they've got now, Man City, and I just wonder the weight of going for the double treble, Nick Mendola, which they can do. Do you think that plays on their mind a little bit, and they may prioritise the Champions League back to back? Is there any part of your mind thinking that Man City might prioritise that over the Premier League?
It's a different league, but I will go back to when Celtic was trying to pull off the same thing. And I know the challenge is a lot different there, but I remember feeling like that was almost a galvanizing force that, man, this is tough, but we can do something that no one else has done. And I think playing that card last year, they almost have experience in playing the doing what no one else has done thing. The schedule does scare me, the way you phrase it that way. But I think if the weakness for them is schedule, and the weakness for Liverpool is, I would argue the Thursday schedule is hard. I think I don't know if a team has ever managed that or had to manage that, because usually you're not going for a title if you're playing on Thursdays. And then I look at Arsenal, and I still think, as much as I love Gabby Jesus, but the center forward situation, I would take Man City's weakness, even given that schedule. Plus, maybe Arsenal and Liverpool, they probably both look at Man City and say, yeah, we've erased a little bit of the specter because we've beaten them before, but they're also on, Man City's also on their schedule. and that game will mean a hell of a lot to them too.
It's true. So I think we've gone full circle here, lads. We started Man City with the favourites at the very start of the segment. We've ended with that as well, but with the very real possibility that either Arsenal or Liverpool can make a run and win the title, and that would be incredible to see any of these teams give it. City winning 4 straight, Liverpool winning under Klopp to say goodbye to the Premier League, or Arsenal winning their first title in 20 years it will be. So either way, whoever comes up with the title at the end of the season, it'll be a great storyline, and we will have you covered on Pro Soccer Talk on NBCSports.com from here on out with the running. It's getting juicy, lads. Thanks for the analysis. Really looking forward to this Premier League title race.
Hi there, I'm Rebecca Lowe, studio host for NBC's coverage of the Premier League. Don't forget to hit subscribe to watch more videos all season long. And for even more Premier League content, from original series to live matches, head over to Peacock. And be sure to tune in for Premier League mornings every weekend on USA Network and on Peacock. We will see you there.